Do not label me. Now, I'm not sure how deep you can visualize that thought. But for me, I've had many years to think about it. When I was in high school, I came to the conclusion that I wanted no parts of any group, any club. Now, I did join one club, but that was only because then I could own one of their jackets. But to say that I was a member and that I participated, no. In fact, one time a guy came up to me after I earned my letter in track, and he said I ought to join the athletics club. And I said, and hang around with a bunch of jocks? I said, no thank you. You know, I had no respect for them. In the same way, I have no respect for anybody except those who prove themselves to be good at whatever it is they're good at. Even if you don't think you're good, if you're a kind person, you're good at being kind. So I really do not want a label. When I started running my own business, I'm capable of fabrication, welding, machining, designing. And I noticed that, like, some customers only came to me when they needed aluminum welded. Other customers only came to me when they needed a car painted. And so on. And I finally started asking some of them. I said, well, in your business, don't you ever need, machine work done? Oh, yeah. And I said, well, I can do that. Really? I said, of course. I said, I got the machine sitting right there. That's what I went to college for. So everybody thought I was good at something, and yet they didn't realize that I could do all these different things. Here's what I'm willing to say about myself, though. I'm not good. I am not the best at any of them. I know how to do the work. I know how to even, you might say, imitate the best. But I'm not. I guess if I was to say I'm the best at anything, it's problem solving, seeing the big picture, finding a real solution that starts at the core of the problem. So, I don't want to be labeled as a welder or a machinist or a fabricator. I don't want to be labeled as a farmer. I don't want to be labeled as a mechanic. And one thing I found out after working for a company as a manufacturing engineer, I do not want to be labeled as an engineer. I was surprised at the lack of knowledge, the lack of common sense these guys have. I honestly got to say that I do not know how we ever got a damn rocket into space and then took them guys, to the moon. Although back then they used more common sense than they do now. So it's not a label that I want to be linked with as far as being an engineer. I'm good at it. I'm proud of what I've accomplished. I'd point out some other things, I guess. Well, this whole subject sort of came about because I was watching a video on YouTube, and this one girl was starting to question her leftist ways. She didn't realize she was questioning them, but that's what she was doing. And she's certainly not on the right. And she doesn't want to be. But she was not proud of the left, and she certainly was not a feminist either. And I started thinking about myself, well, I wonder where I fit in. You know, wonder, is there a category? Well, of course, I started realizing that I don't like a label, but I did come up with one somewhat of a label, and it's individualism or individualist. I'm a person. There's no two of us alike, no matter how close you want to get. So why do we have these categories? I'm here to say that for the most part, the reason we have categories is because people like to identify with something. Because if they can identify with something, they feel like there's less chance of them being criticized and feeling alone. And I guess feeling alone is the big thing. I guess because of my depression and my way of feeling alone all the time anyway, that in a strange way I welcome it. I like being an individual. I don't really like saying I'm an individualist because that's a category. But actually, as an individualist, there are no two alike. And I welcome people that are like that. Some of the things that I think demonstrate being an individual is, of course, you don't side with anybody. You don't say the right is wrong and that the left is right. Democrats aren't perfect, and neither are Republicans. In fact, in this day and age, I would say the more you identify with those two groups, the farther you are from what we really need as far as help in this country. Because you ain't got a clue what the hell's going on. Your minds aren't open enough to really think about the larger picture. I've noticed a few people that talk on YouTube that I think have a pretty good understanding. Believe it or not, and this is not someone who's talked on YouTube. In fact, neither one of these is, I guess. But Einstein seemed to be more of an individualist, based on what I've read and heard. I think Richard Feynman, who was a physicist, he was more of an individualist. He didn't care where the solution came from. He didn't care that whether a person with less education in him came up with a solution, he could understand why they would. Because none of us hold a lock on knowledge and intelligence. But some of them that I listen to, and believe me, I don't agree with any of them completely. Some of them I just don't like the way they communicate. Their statements may be correct, but the way they say it causes turmoil, causes tension. So, don't think that I'm agreeing with any of these completely. But Ben Shapiro, I've noticed that he will criticize and compliment the same individual in the same sentence. And so I hold him as someone that I can trust more than most with his statements. Jordan Peterson, he seems to do all right. Ann Coulter, I think she's got a lot of right ideas, but man, I just don't like the way she comes across. She definitely creates tension. I don't even know quite how to say this one guy, Dinesh D'Souza. Just had to look him up. And believe it or not, George Carlin. He seems to be genuine, even if there's areas of disagreement. And that's what I want. I want a person that looks at them and thinks for themselves. That's what I look for. Some of the things that I think that you'll see happen more with individuals rather than groups is that they're fair even to a fault. I know there's people who's not going to agree with this, but if someone in my family has done something wrong and I'm hauled to court to testify, I'm not going to lie. I will try to put them in the best light possible by, if there is such a thing, by explaining how it got to the point that they did what they did. But if they ask me, did they break the law? And it's yes. I saw it. Nobody's perfect. So I'll end with this one. My daughter had two guys that liked her a lot, and they happened to have been best of friends. And somehow she got them both to our house on the same night. And these two started getting into it with each other. And they were out on our front lawn. And my daughter is looking out through the front door of the house, smiling. She is manipulating these two guys, and they're about ready to actually start swinging fists. I went out there and I questioned them both. I said, "Aren't you guys friends?" They stopped, and I was standing between them looking back and forth at them. "Well, yeah." I said, "Well, stop and think a little bit. What's going on here? Look back up at that door." They looked up there and saw her staring at them. I said, "She's playing you. I'm not proud of my daughter for this. I tell you what I would suggest. I'd suggest that both of you tell her to go fuck herself and go back to being friends, and the hell with her. She's not worth it. I love my daughter, but I know this one she is wrong on." That ended the fight. My daughter was angry with me, but in my mind, it was the right thing to do. She was the one that was in the wrong. Takes a lot to be individualist. I challenge all of you to consider the idea the world would be a far better place without any clubs or organizations at all. Thanks a lot. Oh, I am Kevin, and I'm not childish. I'm at a higher level of immaturity. Thank you.